Welcome back, everyone. This video is a review of the Xero Z Trek sandal for hiking and backpacking. That's not exactly why they make it, but that's how I'll be talking about it, how I like it when I go hiking and backpacking. If you are interested in minimalist footwear and sandals, this video is a part of a series. So if you look in the description below, I will put a link to the videos that came before this, and then eventually a link to the video that will come after this. So this was one of the first sandals that I ever purchased. It is from Xero Shoes, that is Xero with an X, X-E-R-O. And I did take a chance on buying this. I will be very honest. Before I purchased this, I was not really a sandal wearer. I did buy their DIY kit and I experimented with that for a little while and then moved up and bought the Z Trek. Now, one of the things about the Z Trek that I really like is it's so thin. I believe it is 5.5 millimeters thick, and that is it. So I think out of all of the sandals that they sell, this is the thinnest one. The strapping system on it is fantastic. I never feel like my foot is going to fall off. I've never felt like my foot was slipping all around. The only time that I might feel like my foot is slipping around is if it's raining and I get some mud under there and there kind of forms a surface underneath. Then every once in a while, if I'm going downhill, I might feel a little bit of slip, but it's never been something that I've been very concerned about. I do feel like these hold my feet in really well. So far as the strapping system goes, obviously there's one that you can tighten around the heel, and there is one that goes on top of your foot. Once I got this to the place I wanted it, I have never ever undone this strap. So this strap has been closed for like 2 years or even more. I can't remember exactly how old these are. The only strap that I undo is this one right here. So it has the cinch buckle. Obviously you pull it to get it tight. You flip the buckle up to loosen it. It's very simple. Uh-oh. I can hear the rain coming in the woods far away. I don't know if I can do this quick enough before the rain actually gets to me. Let's see what happens. We might finish the whole video in the rain. So, like I recommended in other videos, as a minimalist sandal, you do want zero drop. So there's no difference between the forefoot in the ground and the heel in the ground. It is zero drop, it is straight across. There is no heel in this sandal whatsoever. The rubber that this is made from is not absorbent at all. It's just a really thin little piece of rubber to help protect your sole from little things on the trail. The pattern of this, I believe that's called a chevron design. I find that this has been sufficient for everything that I do, from going on rocks to going on just, regular old dirt trails. I've never found myself in a situation where I've found it to not have enough grip. And I think a lot of times I have heard people in other sandal reviews say that, the sandals aren't good for when it's wet, it's not good for when it's rocky. I think what happens is that a lot of people, and I just watched one last night where I saw the person do the review and they had just worn the sandals for like the first day and they did the review. I saw somebody else, big name backpacker out there, that did a review on sandals, like comparing them against running shoes or trail hikers or whatever, and they'd actually not worn them backpacking and hiking. So I could tell you, after many miles of these on the trails, I've never really found myself in a situation where I've been like, oh, I really regretted wearing these. So far so good. The other places, what else can you do with these? I have run with these, so I do some trail running. I have no issues trail running with these. I only have run probably, I don't know, 20-ish miles on the road with these, but you can definitely run on the road. And if you notice, they come with the Xero 5,000 mile sole warranty. I actually, when I was taking them off for the video, I was actually kind of surprised. I don't know if you can see on the video the wear. The only place that it's kind of worn down is back here on the heel, and that is it. Otherwise, the sole looks pretty good all around. It is excellent I love wearing these when it's wet outs. If it's raining, or if it's just like, you know, if you're hiking on a trail where your feet are going through like grass or weeds and getting wet. I'm not a big fan, like most people are, of hiking in wet socks and wet sneakers. And so it's great to have these on your feet when things get wet, because then they just dry right out. Or at the end of the day, you're not having to deal with those soggy sneakers and especially the soggy socks. And the next day when you go to put them on, you're not dealing with soggy sneakers and soggy straps, soggy socks. The worst thing that you're dealing with is just a wet strap. Also going through rivers, and pretty much if you listen to anybody's sandal review online, they'll mention going through rivers. You don't have to worry about skipping onto the perfect rocks. You can go straight through. And as a matter of fact, the last time I was on the Appalachian Trail, it was wicked hot. And every opportunity I had, I went straight through the water instead of trying to skip around. And on most of the river crossings, you know, we're just talking like small little streams, but in most of them, I ended up just standing in it for a while. Just it really, you know, it cools you down. And that's something you would never do if you had your trail hikers on. You'd be trying to keep them dry. So with rocks, I have no issue going over larger rocks. And one of the tests that I do when I get a pair of sandals or shoes, I give it the rock wall test. We have some huge rock walls on my property, and so I'll go up and down across the top of the rock wall. And again, it's got two things. One, it simulates like a very rocky trail, but also the rocks aren't exactly steady, and so it gives you a good idea of you know, how they would perform on a rocky trail. The times where I would not wear this shoe, and I do have another sandal for this purpose, is there are some trails around where I live that if I'm going trail running, there's like huge sections of like washout. And so you end up with all the small little rocks that have kind of just accumulated over time. That I find is a pain in the neck in these. You do have to be a lot more careful with your step. It's harder to get between them, or it's harder to place your foot across all of them. There are also some trails that are really washed out, and it's all roots. And that also can sometimes be a pain in the neck, because the roots are almost more painful than the rocks for whatever reason, because they kind of go across your entire foot. How many miles can you walk in these? I have only done up to 13 miles a day backpacking with these. You know, I've hiked for similar miles. I haven't run for 13 miles. I mean, I've run for close to 10 miles in these. Actually, probably not. Probably closer to about 8 or so. And so I don't know if there's a max in these, especially if you're not used to sandals and used to going barefoot. But I know for me that 12 to 13 was not much of a problem at all. The other thing that I love about these is that I have never, ever gotten a blister with these of any kind. And part of that is that your feet are always dry. Your feet are never wet and soggy in these. You're not having that moisture build up and that heat build up. And the only place you're maybe going against are these straps, and you're not really rubbing against the straps. Also, these straps are like, kind of like climbing webbing, if you're familiar with that. It's kind of like a loop of a strap. It's not just a flat strap, so there's no real like edge to it. So even the sides of these straps are kind of rounded. And so I've never gotten, unless I got one way early when I first bought these, I don't ever remember getting a blister in these at all. Another great thing about these is I have big, huge, wide feet, and these fit my big, huge, wide feet. These are size 14. In Ultra sneakers, I normally buy 15s, and I can fit into a 15 Lone Peak in Ultra, just to kind of pick a shoe that's familiar with a lot of people, with no issues, and I fit into the 14s of these. You can see my toe is not quite to the top of it. There is a little bit of extra room. Probably there's less room at the top of the shoe than if it would be in a sneaker. But anything more, and it tends to kind of catch and kind of flip on things. There is, when my foot is in it, it's pretty much straight on the rubber. Every once in a while, I will get a pebble or a rock in here or something like that. And when I wore these on the Appalachian Trail last time, I tried to keep count of like how many times during the day I had to flip something out. And I kind of forgot by the end of the day to keep count. But I know at some point I was up to like 5 or 6. Now, out of those 5 or 6 times, some of those were just me like pausing and just shaking my foot and it came out. Maybe 1 or 2 times a day, I have to stop, like complete stop, lean up against a tree, and all I normally have to do is put my finger between my foot and the sole, which creates that space, and whatever it is falls out. But I think that's a pretty small trade-off. And the reality is, unless you're wearing gaiters with your sneakers, you end up with stuff getting into your sneakers usually, also. So I don't really see that as that big of a problem either. Other than that, it does have a small heel cup on the back of it, and I find that the heel cup is just enough, not too much. It's just the right size, right in the middle. It also, and for those of you with wide feet, it does kind of cup up on the side here and on the side there. And so I found at least that this really helps a lot keep my foot locked in there. I know I have another pair of Xero shoes, of Xero shoes. I think they're called the Santa Cruz or Vera Cruz. They don't work at all for me. I cannot wear them at all. My foot slides off and I end up coming off the edge of it. So just that little cup on either side, I think would really help those of you with the big wide feet like me. Oh, there is one last thing that I do want to mention, and that is if you are new to sandals, please research and do some looking up on just simply walking barefoot. And before you even wear this sandal, if you're going from a sneaker to this sandal, please just walk barefoot first. And on a couple videos before this one, I talk a little bit about the importance. So I'm not going to go deep into it, but just your legs simply, or your feet and your ankles, your calves, your Achilles simply aren't used to walking in a shoe with no support. If you've been in a foot cast all of these years, wrapped in a shoe, in a sneaker, in a shoe during the day, when you go to these, your legs are going to be working muscles and feet are going to be working things that they haven't worked in years. So you really need to make sure that you slowly work up to wearing these. What you're going to find, and again, every once in a while when I go to do a review on something, I'll go and look at other people's reviews on it. And I just saw again last night where someone wore this for a very short time. They went from sneakers to a sandal, and they basically said, oh, the sandals were really sore on their feet. I guess they're going to stick to trail runners on the trail. It's not the problem. The problem is your feet aren't used to having no support. Your feet are weak. If you only wear sneakers and shoes, you have slowly weakened your feet and made them dumb. And so putting these sandals on for the first time, you're going to get sore. You're going to feel things that you've never felt before. So it takes time. There is a transition period. And so you got to take it slow and just again, take it slow. And these will really pay off in the end. And again, these are at least 2 years old, I think. And you can kind of see the wear on them. There's no place that it's really worn out. Even the straps that come on the side are not worn out. And again, I live in the Northeast, and so lots of granite and rocks and everything else. And I'm kind of surprised that there's no more wear and tear on the side of those. All right, that's the end of the video. If you get these, I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. There's a link for them in the description below. And let's call that the end of the video. Thank you.